COP28 has just concluded with world leaders discussing one of the most pressing issues of our times, that's climate crisis. If there's any solution to this modern-day challenge, it is the choices that we make. One of the most personal and important choices that we make is that of the food that we eat. Now, 1/3 of the global greenhouse gas emissions are attributed to food, and meat and dairy account for the lion's share of it. Environmentalists say that deforestation, biodiversity loss, pandemic risk, and water pollution are some of the biggest negative impacts of the meat industry. Now, last evening, Indian cricketer Virat Kohli left his fans puzzled. He posted this, a picture of what he called mock chicken tikka. A vegetarian Virat enjoying sumptuous meat was a surprise for his followers, but that's when everybody realized that it is a mock or plant-based meat. Now, what's interesting is that more and more people around the world are now shifting to the vegan or plant-based lifestyle, from tofu to mock meat. Being vegan is considered by many as a healthier lifestyle choice. As per Johns Hopkins University, the average greenhouse gas footprint from plant-based meats was 23% for an equivalent amount of protein in chicken. For environmental purposes also, many say that it uses less water and saves up on land, which can be used to revert to forests or natural vegetation. However, health-wise, several researchers warn against assuming that plant-based meat is nutritionally equivalent to animal meat. Studies show that in eating plant-based meat, we are consuming up to 6 times more sodium than animal meat, because these are highly processed foods and they may contain added sugars, artificial coloring, and additives such as carrageenan and methyl cellulose, in addition to refined oils and other bulking agents. So which way should we go? Animal-based, non-vegetarian food or vegan choices? To talk more on this on the show today, I'm joined by Sandeep Singh. He's the founder, Blue Tribe Foods, exactly the place of where Virat Kohli had posted that picture from. Sairaj Dhon, founder, CEO, Vakao Foods, also joins us. Divya Gandhi, she's a nutritionist, founder, CEO, Diet and Cure, joins us. And Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, chairperson, Nephron, joins us on the show. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to start with you. Interesting picture there by Virat Kohli. And, a lot of people like Virat, a lot of youngsters taking up this whole plant-based diet nowadays. But first, for the benefit of our viewers, help us understand what is mock meat and how is it different from the lab-based meat that we keep talking about and that we keep hearing about?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. So plant-based meat is basically, I would still call it meat. I think I don't like the word mock meat, but it's still meat. It's made out of plant. It's texturized and made in such a way that it has the texture of meat. We try to give the nutrition of meat and has the flavor of meat. The reason we can do this is because science has evolved a lot in the last 10, 15 years. So, for example, you got innovation from in cars. Now you have electric vehicles. You never had them before. So I think food choices also evolved, and there's a lot of research and development happening globally. Billions of dollars have been spent on this. Therefore, it can be a very close replica to the meat from the animal, I would say. Like meat is made of constituents of fat, protein. They are made of, all the constituents of it. Can also be replicated through the vegetarian source. And that's what we have done. This is different from lab-grown meat. Lab-grown meat is basically, it's made from cells of the animal. So that is, the animal itself, without killing the animal, you could say, where you grow the meats in the lab in a petri dish. And that is still evolving. There are some products launched in Singapore, but it's still far behind. But yes, it's a new technology of meat as well.
Okay. And therefore, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, since it is a new technology of food, how it is manufactured and how it's being consumed, should we be believing the first researches and studies that are coming saying that this is a healthier option, that this is better health-wise than the actual natural animal-based meat?
Good evening. I think we need a more rational and balanced view. A celebrity endorsement does not necessarily translate in real time and real life to good health. What is the mantra is a balanced diet. Now, when you talk in terms of a plant-based or mock meat or semi-vegan, these are substitutes to animal protein, that's fair. What do they contain? They contain derivatives of jackfruit, soya, tofu, banana peels, watermelon, vegetable fibers. My concerns are as follows. The percentage ratio of distribution between carbohydrates, fats, and proteins cannot be matched in any meat which is plant-based. The balance between vitamin, minerals, trace elements, and essential elements is inadequate, and insufficient amount of essential amino acids in most of plant-based products. We know, I'm not going into the statistics of how big the global industry is. It's in hundreds and thousands of crores. But the fact is, the soya, which is the main ingredient in this kind of plant-based meat, has a direct impact on the hormonal profile of human beings. It decreases the extremely important hormones known as FSH and LH in premenopausal ladies, decreases fertility, and increases estrogen. It's a converse effect post-menopausal and menopausal. There are also recent researches to have an impact of showing an increased incidence in cancer of the breast and prostate. Now we know that a cup of soya milk versus any other milk has 500 to 1,000 times more estrogenic effect. We know estrogen has to be in normal levels in the body. A high estrogen or low estrogen causes great negative effects. We also know that this is what we call as phytoestrogens, which mimic estrogens, and they bind to the estrogen receptors. So it is a hormonal and anti-hormonal effect on the body. It also has 6 times more of sodium, which has already been mentioned by you, higher concentration of saturated fatty acids. The other very important concern, last 30 seconds, is that this contains gluten products. We know increasingly we've been diagnosing more and more of children, adolescents, and young adults who are gluten allergy. It also has artificial colors, additives. After all, it's a processed food product. WHO in 2021, just 2 years back, has mentioned limited evidence on effects of good health and significant knowledge gaps. So my advice to everyone is follow a balanced diet. Even for a minute, I'm saying I'm not for vegetarian or for non-vegetarian. Your diet has to be balanced. Anything which is processed contains more amount of unhygienic fats, more amount of salt, inadequate balance of essential amino acids, and anything which has an effect on the hormonal profile going forward is a question mark. Over to you.
Sairaj, you just heard Dr. Bagai there listing out the kind of health concerns that come with this new kind of food technology. Also the fact that these food products, these food items might be plant-based, where you're using plants to create a texture like non-vegetarian food. But the fact of the matter is that they are undergoing a lot of processing, which means that there will be reduction in the nutrients, which also means that it is, at the end of the day, a processed food product that we're eating off the shelves, isn't it?
Are you asking me the question?
Are you asking?
Sairaj, are you able to hear me? Yes, this is for you, okay. Sairaj.
Okay, sorry. So one thing that I believe in, and I'm a very staunch believer, is we would at Waka Foods make a product which I'm happy giving my son to eat. And therefore, all our products are preservative free. We make products from jackfruit. Jackfruit is one of India's most traditional foods that has been ever eaten. And it's the most natural, if you want to call it mock meat, plant-based meat, whatever you want to call it. Like, for example, my grandmother used to feed us jackfruit as kids and call it chikanachi bhaji. In Konkani, in English, it means chicken ki sabzi, or in Hindi it means. So we've been eating jackfruit.
I think most of the vegetarians are told that jackfruit is the chicken of the vegetarians.
Correct. So what we are trying to do here is bring our traditional foods which are there, which had that texture and the meatiness which is there. So I don't need to process jackfruit to give it any meaty texture. It is naturally meaty. It is naturally fibrous. So all our products are, if you say processed to what extent? Everything is processed. When you cook your food in your kitchen, it is processed. So our products are processed to the extent to which you cook your food in your kitchen. It undergoes a process called retort packaging, which is a heating process, and which gives it just that much processing goes into it. It has no preservatives. It's a very, very good food nutritionally. Jackfruit is very rich in fiber and in a lot of balanced nutritions. And therefore, I think, as manufacturers of these kind of products, of plant-based products, it's also an inbuilt responsibility within us to make sure that what we are coming out with is good for the people and good for the climate and earth. So that's a responsibility that we have, and personally, and our company takes this upon ourselves to make sure that our products that we come out with are good for your health. If not, I wouldn't be doing this. So we are very clear about it. I know that they could be, and most of our Indian companies, and I can say this with responsibility, are taking this responsibility upon ourselves. We want to come out with solutions which are good for people. Otherwise, it's very easy to come out with something which can be harmful. But I think that is something that we are very conscious about. We know what is there, and there is a narrative which is on the other side, which has a lot of things that can be pointed out. But let's be very clear about certain things, that we are here to create products which are great for you and great for the people. These are alternatives. These are not replacements as such. I'm never an advocate to say that go all out and change it. You try it, see if you like it, see if this suits your diet, see if this suits your personality, then make it a habit product. It's a slow journey. It's not an overnight change, and it can never happen that way. And if someone is proposing that, he's wrong, according to me. It is something that will take time. People will evolve over it, and we are saying give it time, but try. Let's make that first attempt. Don't try and throw the baby right out on the first day. Give us some time. We are working very hard. It's a new,
interestingly, these food alternatives, these food alternatives are also divided, interestingly, on the basis of political ideologies, but we're not getting into that. But, just how they're impacted, because these alternatives are seen by many as woke choices and so on and so forth. But Divya, do you resonate with that? What's your thought on these kind of food alternatives that have come in?
See, if we talk about veganism, it is basically people going off animal protein, right? If a vegetarian is going vegan, means the person is not consuming honey, ghee and milk products. The reason could be some kind of hormonal issue the person might be suffering from, like PCOD or insulin resistance, right? In that case, it is very much okay to go vegan. Now, if we talk about these processed meat which are there in the market, why a non-vegetarian is going vegan? Because of certain health issue, which could be diabetes, which could be high cholesterol. In that case, occasionally, if a person wants to choose these processed meat, they can, so that they can enjoy that flavor which they might be missing on. But if they are consuming it on a regular basis, anything which is processed is generally processed by adding a little bit of more salt, fat or sugar. And like, if you don't add all these things, it's not possible to prepare these processed meat. So if you're converting into vegan because you care about your health, then going into too much of mock meat is not a good option. But yes, if you're going because of some health benefits, then at times you can always consume these mock proteins, because they will give you a taste of something which you have left. Adding to that, these meat are processed, plus they are low in iron and vitamin B12, because vitamin B12 is generally being taken from non-vegetarian sources. So for me, balance is the key. If you're switching because of health benefits, mock protein, like mock meat, is something which is not an option.
But can I also ask you, Divya, here in India, we've always had these very traditional ways of having our food, whether it's the preparation of our food, the source of our food, the time that we eat our food, and the way we eat our food, different items. We have that very clearly, defined in our traditional way of eating in different cultures of this country. And so far we've been good, right? Then what's the need of this whole new food technology coming in? How does it benefit us? Because we already have these different food practices here in India, and you can choose from whichever suits your body.
See, basically, this is veganism. We talk about mock meat, it is for people who have turned from non-vegetarian to vegetarian, right? Non-vegetarian food is very high in acid, right? So people who have gut issues, what they do, they generally switch from being non-vegetarian to vegetarian. Now they want to relish this thing that they have left non-vegetarian due to some environmental thing also, some religious reasons as well, or because of their health issues. So now they want enjoy this delicacy that because they have turned to a vegetarian, they have this option to enjoy the taste of meat. And then I personally believe that masses also impact people these days. If a celebrity is doing it, everybody else will be doing it. So a bit of Western culture, a bit of influence from celebrity is impacting a normal individual also. At times, people without any reason are going vegan because everybody else is doing it. Right? So there is, I personally believe balance is the key. If you're a non-vegetarian and you relish non-veg and you're converting into a vegetarian and eating mock meat thinking that it is going to benefit, then that is something which is not going to help.
Okay. Sandeep, let me also talk about the environmental concerns that come in. You know, we've just had the COP28 where world leaders have met. They've discussed various issues. And one of the concerns obviously has been the meat industry and how it contributes to global warming. But when it comes to these plant-based foods, how is it different in terms of the kind of environmental challenges that natural animal-based industry poses?
So I know you yourself said in your opening statement that the greenhouse emission is like 83% lesser than animal-based protein. Also, one important thing we must not forget is the antibiotic resistance which the meat industry causes. Antibiotics are used rampantly in the poultry industry, in the animal industry, and this has led to a lot of issues for the world. The world is seeing antibiotic resistance happening at a very, very large scale, and it's a big danger to the human society. So not just greenhouse emission. When you talk about environment, we must take into consideration the usage of antibiotics, which is which is a large concern if you ask me. Which is not used in plant-based meat.
Right, absolutely. Sairaj, okay. Sairaj, in terms of how you go about manufacturing these food products, can you help us understand step by step what exactly happens? Because several studies have shown that there is less water consumption. There is, of course, lesser emissions as compared to the regular natural meat industry that is dominant right now. Help us understand this whole process of how exactly it's done.
So different industries in the mock meat segment or the plant-based segment have different ways of manufacturing. I can tell you about what we do. So as far as our stuff is concerned, it's simple jackfruit. It's jackfruit, the big one that you squeeze at 4 months old. The one which we cut is 2.5 months. It's tender jackfruit. So we cut the jackfruit. The jackfruit is then blanched a little, it's boiled a little, it's put into very high-grade plastic, it's sealed, and then it's put into an autoclave, and it undergoes a water heating process. That's for our natural raw jackfruit. So now when you have your raw jackfruit, which is otherwise a very difficult process to cut open and cook, we give it to you in ready to cook format. Now, have you ever imagined a sausage? Now, sausage, even the meat sausage is processed, right? So have you ever imagined a sausage made from jackfruit? There are, like, for example, we had a QSR set up the other day at EFI in Goa. There were vegetarians who had never in their life tried a sausage. and they were having a hot dog and they were loving it. So this is a different option that is given to people. So even with our products, when we manufacture them, they are first, it's right from the raw jackfruit. And also to give you context here, jackfruit in India is a very ignored fruit. We waste almost 75% of jackfruit in India. 1.4 million tons of it is grown. So it's also helping the agricultural segment. The whole industry is growing with this. So it is putting something that is ignored to right use and coming out with something which is very innovative and which people have never ever even imagined. So again, coming back to the manufacturing part of it, all the other products that we make are, the base remains jackfruit. It is like majorly jackfruit, and then there are certain things, spices and other things that we add into it, and we put them in certain extrusion machines or some other, so which have shapes like the sausages and the burgers go through the extrusion machine. The rest are just gravies that are made. Put the raw jackfruit in the gravy, seal it, put it in an autoclave. Very simple. So we have, our products are very simple, very easy to make, and very easy to eat. And therefore, people are liking it because there is also a bit of nostalgia that people, I believe, almost 80% of India has eaten jackfruit in some form or the other. But they have never imagined jackfruit to come in this kind of a form. And I don't see any harm in this. It is something that we need to evolve. If there are set practices which were there for times immemorial, why don't we come up with new stuff which is not harmful? And we don't say eat my product every single day. You may not eat my product every day. You can have it once a week or twice a week. So I'm happy. I'm not here to force it and put it down your throat. So you can have your balanced meal. You can have things that you like eating, that you've always been eating. But this is another great option that we are offering you. That is my point of view.
And is it also cheaper, Siraj? Is it also a cheaper, industry that way in terms of manufacturing the products that you get, and this whole manufacturing process? Is it cheaper than the regular meat industry? Yeah.
Not yet, because we need scale, right? To make anything price competitive, we need scale. And today the meat industry is a commodity. So meat is a commodity. There's mass production. There's so much of it. We are still a very, very small drop in the ocean. And once our scale starts increasing, so something like what Virat Kohli has done, and with Blue Tribe and everyone, people ask me whether we are competitors. I say no, we are collaborators, because right now we are just trying to build this category, and something like this comes up suddenly, and it's such a huge help to everyone. Because once the scale increases, once people start understanding, we are in that education phase. Once people start understanding what we are doing and more people start eating our product, that's when the cost will come down. Till then, we'll still be a little higher, and that's normal. Once that improves, we'll be able to make it more cost effective.
But that's the complaint, Sandeep. Sandeep, that's the complaint, right? Most of these organic, sustainable products are more expensive than the natural ones, than the already existing ones. We need to have them at a cheaper rate so that more and more people can get access to them.
Sure. No, I take your point, but please remember, we are a nascent industry. We just started a few years back globally. All things take time. The first PC was very expensive. The first electric car was very expensive. So give us time. If people support us, they consume, economies of scale would kick in, and eventually, I think it would get cheaper than animal protein as well in the next decade or so. But it takes time, and I'm so happy that the mainstream media is talking about it, and that day is not far. I'm very sure about that. But it would take time. It's a nascent industry. We need your support.
Okay, Dr. Bagai, we are human beings who've evolved over a period of time, physically, mentally, and biologically. If we see that, from the primitive ages, we've been known to believe to have a certain kind of digestive system which has a certain mechanism of digestion of natural products. And with this kind of new technology coming in, do you think that our systems will evolve to adjust with it, or will it still be how does it operate? Will it still be the same and reject things that it will not be able to digest in the body, or we as human beings will evolve into accepting all of these newer food technologies?
Is that for me?
Yes, Dr. Bagai.
Yeah. So I think any good nutrition which equates to good health is a balanced, regular food which is readily available, which is cost effective, which is not out of reach of common families, with adequate amounts of macro and micronutrients and adequate amount of fluids as a fluid balance. Just very quickly with regards to the jackfruit issue, I think jackfruit is readily available in India. You have to be specifically careful in diabetics who are on medication. It contains higher amount of potassium, so you need to be careful in chronic kidney disease. It causes sedation, so you have to be careful in neurological issues, and of course in pregnancy and breast milk lactation. So there are issues with each food product. My advice to all the viewers is eat what is readily available, which is clean, hygienic, and a balanced food. The Indian diaspora has a great evolution as far as the gut-brain axis is concerned, immunity is concerned. Don't go overboard in one particular aspect. There is no debate whether it's vegetarian or non-vegetarian. Eat what is good, but it must be balanced. Going one way and extreme one way is harmful. Let me add one quick line. Virat Kohli is an extreme example of high-end athlete performance, which is unmatched by any other person, at least presently playing cricket. His body system will be a lot different from 99.9% of other Indians. So follow what your mind says, follow what is easy, follow what is readily available at home. Let the diet be balanced.
Divya, with people coming to you, what's the kind of inclination you find among the younger generation now? This is, of course, finding more resonance with the younger generation who are turning to more plant-based diets, turning vegan. What's the kind of response and what's the kind of inclination you see in them?
See, I personally believe people are being run by masses, but yes, going vegan is something which is growing too much these days, and it is not bad to go vegan because it is something which is very high in fiber. If we don't talk about the processed food, which is good to be consumed at times, as Sarah said, that balance is the key. Going vegan is something which is so high in fiber, very low in cholesterol, plus it is very low in sodium altogether, the vegan food, so it is very good for health. People who are on weight loss generally have a lot of inclination towards veganism. People these days have a lot of PCOS and insulin resistance and diabetes, so they generally prefer a vegan diet which benefit them a lot. So going vegan and consuming mock meat at times is absolutely fine, and even I give it in the diet to a lot of people so that they can enjoy being vegan, they can enjoy being on their weight loss journey, they can enjoy the food of their choice at times, and yes, it is something which is going to benefit. But as Sir rightly said, if you're consuming too high a calorie, too high a sodium, too high a saturated fat, you need to burn that it in such a way that it is going to be compensated by your physical activity. So yes, there is a lot of inclination, but adding to that, there is a lot of people who can't leave non-veg or animal protein or desi ghee or honey, and they continue to do that, and that is absolutely fine, consuming animal protein as well, but in moderation, of course.
Okay. Okay, let me then quickly ask Sandeep and Sairaj, this industry, of course, is tipped to be increasing, to be rising, expanding, not just around the world, but particularly in India as well. How do you see it really moving forward now? Sandeep, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, I think these are early days. It's still a small industry. So, low base, the growth rate would look phenomenal, but we have a long way to go, and we should not kid ourselves that we have arrived. I think media attention is great, but India is a peculiar market. It's different from the West. For example, in India, people who even say they are non-vegetarians are actually vegetarians in a way. They are closet vegetarians. They eat non-veg twice a week, perhaps, and so for them to switch to this is more difficult because obviously they are vegetarians in the West consume meat, let's say, twice a day versus what they consume in India. So, the guilt factor in India is far lesser compared to the people in the West. So it will be a tougher climb, slower climb. But as the consumption, as the income of India increases, which has been proven all over the world, meat consumption per capita will go up. So it's an important thing that we plant-based meat industry is geared up, but it would be a slow climb, but a very persistent one.
Yeah, you know what's also interesting
Yes.
is that the fact that at COP28 and with every successive COP, Siraj, uh, the environmentalists, those who are concerned about the climate change, keep on pushing the richer countries to reduce their meat industry, to shrink their meat industry and move to healthier alternatives and cheaper alternatives and plant-based alternatives that impact the environment lesser. But that clearly is not happening with the kind of speed that we would want it to be, with the kind of money that is involved. It is an already existing, well-established industry. And for plant-based manufacturers like you, you'll have to really climb the ladder and make your way through a lot of challenges.
Like I said, we are still in the education phase. We're spending a lot of time, money, energy in like educating people. So I completely agree with you that it's a long climb, it's a tough climb. But one thing for sure, you need to understand that people, why it's taking so much time? Because food is something that is integral in anyone's life. You're going to consume something whose you don't like only and only if it's a medicine. Otherwise, you want it to be tasty. So the challenge before all of us is also to make this thing tasty, keeping in balance with the healthy element and also giving them a great opportunity and alternative. So I think it's going to take time. We need to make this a habit product, and that definitely category creation is a big thing. Like Sandeep said, we all are at it, and there's no giving up. We're all trying our best to come up with great alternatives for the people. The international market is a very big market, which is already ready and who understands it's a mature market. India will still take time. My estimation is that it will take at least another 3 to 5 years for it to become a mainstream concept. Just that channels like you all today are talking about it. Then again, in the Prime Minister's food menu for G20, there was jackfruit. There were jackfruit products there. So there are certain signs and indications that this industry is growing. People are accepting us, and it is only a matter of time before this becomes mainstream and people accept us with open arms.
All right, let's see how that pans out. There are, of course, differences of opinion on this, but we'll wrap it up here and we'll see, Sairaj and Sandeep, how this really pans out. Thank you to both of you, as well as Divya and Dr. Bagai, for joining us on the show and sharing your perspective. Namaskar, thank you very much. With that, we're slipping into a short break. News and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned to Mirror Now.